and I'm really excited to talk about this book because for those of you that haven't read it, cross-legged. I don't think I can bend like that. It's a fantastic book. It's absolutely incredible. Really enjoyed it, and so that's actually kind of where I wanted to start off a little bit was with the lyrical writing. The way that you timed the book, I find to be really kind of exceptional, and it's almost movements. I'm trying really hard not to say like poetic right now. I'm doing really hard. I already did it, didn't I? But the way that you move forward, kind of one step, and then kind of fold really nicely back into the history, and then move forward again. And so I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you wrote it and how you edited it. Like if it kind of came out in that movement, or if that was something that you did on your own.
Sure. Well, I will say that in talking about this book, what I've realized is that my memory is a little bit filmic, and it's largely image-based. So when I write something, it comes to me in images first, and those, those come in short bursts, and they're like a perfect thing that you can capture. I think also when I was writing this book, I didn't have a lot of time, so it would be sitting down and writing something perfect that I could appreciate. And in terms of editing, I did have to do, the temporal construction of it was a mess. It was garbage at first, so I had to just print everything out and lay it out on the floor, which is like a horrible cartoon of a writer. But I really did have to do that and just stay in my room for a while. And then my editor helped also. She's lovely.
But so it was something that maybe came out as bursts that you then kind of found the flow with.
Well, I can't say that I saw the entire arc of the story at first. I just came to different images and then put them together later. And that's something I've gotten better at as a writer, but I think it's pretty common when you're first starting, is that you have to see things that you're beautiful and then put them together in a way that makes sense.
It's very beautiful, and it's a tale, really, and what I took from it, obviously, my interpretation of it, but just so much about friendship and the different kinds of friendship there is in life, including love, and then familial, and also sexual, which I felt like there was just such a great study in what it means to kind of come into your own sexually as a teenager, and also what it means to share something like that with somebody that you truly love later on in life. And then also other different variations on that. But so one of the things I was wondering, like, so there was friendship, and then the other thing that really shone to me was Northern California. I mean, it's just such a northern, like I almost felt bad. I was trying to picture myself reading this book having never been to Northern California, and I feel like I would have been missing out on a rather large part of it, because it was just so much, not a part, it's not one of those things like, oh, it was like a character in the book. It wasn't. But the setting, the tree, it was just so...
Third figure in the room for you?
No, it's just so, it made it so much easier to vision it, because I felt like I had been there. And so I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit to how much Northern California is a part of this book. Or if I totally got that wrong. You're like, actually, this is North Carolina.
I will say that I think any native Californian you'll speak to will find that they're incredibly disturbed when they go somewhere else. And having lived a number of other places now, there are a number of gifts that you don't really realize are gifts until you leave. And also the town specifically, which it's no secret that I modeled this after. My hometown was something that provided itself to experiences that these characters had that I just don't think that would have occurred in another part of the world. Hands down. And then in terms of, I feel like we sort of started out on another question. You're also talking about different sorts of relationships.
Yeah.
I think that I was thinking when I was writing this book, which was 2 to 3 years ago, I was thinking a lot about the contracts, the unspoken contracts that exist in relationships, or that don't, or that we believe that they do, and then once relationships fall apart and we see that they weren't in place like we believed, how horrifying that is. And so I think that I wanted to kind of move through different sorts of relationships thinking about that.
There's also, there's so much forgiveness in it. And I feel like There is. I mean, there is. There's a lot. I feel like earlier when we were talking, I was kind of saying it's a sad book. But really now, like when I really think it, like there's so much forget. Like it's also there's a lot of happy moments in these relationships.
Well, the incredible thing about these characters is that they really have signed on to be in each other's lives forever, implicitly. Of course, it doesn't work out exactly like that, but I was fascinated by that idea.
Did you have a favorite? That's bullshit, but like a favorite relationship in the thing?
Well, I won't say that I have a favorite relationship, but I do think that there are some characters that get less credit. A lot of the reviews have talked about the love story between Ida and Jackson, and I appreciate that. But I also the relationship between their respective single parents is pretty special to me.
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
No. Sorry.
No.
I mean, just encourage you.
Tell me what you thought. Well, I like the idea of people that are bound by like a series of owe you ones. Like I don't even really like you that much particularly, but you've just done enough for me that now we're in it. And that's another kind of contract that they take up. And they actually manage their relationship much more responsibly than any of the three and than their children. Mm-hmm. And I like that a great deal. And I like that they team up at the end of their lives because what's the better option? You know, I don't know. It struck me as very sweet.
I'm a big fan of James. Just for those that when you read it.
I am too. I think he's insane in the most beautiful way, and I really love when she goes and stays at his house and just and thinks that they've had the most lovely day, like coloring on the table, and then she just realizes, like, oh God, this is just how you live, and you don't even know what a garbage bag is. Mm-hmm. This is horrifying.
So you've been on tour for a little bit now.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how the book's been received? I know you recently got a really nice write-up in the Washington Post.
Not the Washington
Journal.
Post. The Wall Street Journal.
I got there.
Which is way better than the Washington Post.
It's way better than the Washington Post.
I did. The reception has been incredible, but I tried not to cultivate any expectations because otherwise you could be totally heartbroken. So it's kind of like everything has been a lovely surprise. Mm-hmm. Feels like a birthday that I earned somehow. The best surprise party that I just keep attending. Although it's dying down, so that's sad.
Is this kind of the tail end of the tour?
Yeah, I have one more radio interview, and then we're going camping, and then I'm going to go back to New York. Thanks,
and this is just a friend of mine. He just saying he really liked it too.
Tell me the garbage man.
Yeah. Also, the cover makes a lot more sense when you like. I was like, oh, hi, Jack. I'm really excited.
Yeah, the designer did a really smart job of that.
It's really impressive. It's a great cover and a great title. Even I had to look up what proximal meant personally.
So it's an interesting word because we think of proximity and we just think nearby, but proximal actually has a relationship with distal, and it's often used when just speaking about medical or scientific systems. So you're talking about something that's close to the center. Mm-hmm. So I like that because I feel like these characters are kind of like forever receding from and then trying to return to some center, whether it's perceived or real or geographical.
Okay. And you also talk a lot about math in the book. Is that something?
That's been brought up, which is so weird because I'm awful at math.
Right, that's kind of right.
You knew that?
I wasn't going to say, I just read. I was like, there's just a lot of math. I did not know Kathleen was such a numbers gal.
Well, I think that was just talking about how Ida, the protagonist, like really, always wished for like a clear solution that could be like deconstructed, mm-hmm. and that was never in place. But she wants it to be like that. I mean, her view of her relationship with Jackson, is horrifying in that she thinks that if she can just analyze it enough, she'll understand it and put it back together. Mm-hmm. If she can go back and figure out the terms, then it'll come back to her, mm-hmm. or something. So that's true. A lot of math.
Okay. And science. You did.
What science is there?
You talked a little bit just about, like, not chemistry as in chemistry, but I felt like it was not just like theorems, like there was other types of, I just found it not to be just, I feel like a lot of books just write, especially as writers, people tend to write just within the realm of like the English or like the lit areas, and I felt like you were really trying to touch on some other places, including the art world.
Sure.
And I was wondering, was that just kind of a critique of that? So there's a scene where we actually go into an art gallery, and it's like 3 a.m., and I was just wondering how much of that drew on personal experiences. At this point, the characters are living in San Francisco. And so I was wondering if there was any send-up of a small art scene, or...
Well, I think that more what I liked about that is that I liked that she took this awful part of him, which is he's like an entirely violent sleeper. He's getting up in the middle of the night and taking buses and doing all these sorts of terrible things, and she decides, like, I'm just going to figure out how to love this too, so, like, here's a paintbrush. And he makes these beautiful things that he totally resents because he doesn't do them with his own permission. So that was more what that scene was about for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then her saying, like, I promise it's beautiful, watch, other people will love it, which doesn't matter to him if he doesn't love it.
Right.
So I think that was more the intent.
And that's the other thing that I wanted to ask on before we maybe open it up to the crowd for some questions. But there is obviously a lot of, I can't pronounce it. I would just say sleepwalking and sleep action, but you would say...
It's somnambulism?
That.
Oh, and soliloquy. That's the best word.
There we go. And
we had a lot of emails about that word, I think.
Yeah, right. I never had to say it out loud, and weirdly didn't practice before I got up here like an idiot. But I did want to ask just kind of about the research that went into that, and kind of how that opened up your world for your characters, the ability to have them do that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, so what I'll say, and I've also come to believe this more in the book that I'm researching now, which is deep into it. There's a whole lot of research that requires, but I think the novelist's job is to first find out what absolutely isn't possible, and then to play within that. And sleep talking was a thing that was really wonderful to plan, and sleepwalking too. Basically, what happens is that most people really do stop by the time they're 12. And the options that are available to you if you continue as an adult is they're like, here's this drug that we'll give you, and it'll keep you totally asleep, and you'll stay in bed, but then during the daytime, like, your agency is kind of off and your body feels weird, which is a horrible option, so people mostly say, like, no thank you. Mm-hmm. But as an adult, if you have agency, it's horrifying, because your body remembers how to drive a car, which you absolutely shouldn't be doing while you're sleeping, if anyone is curious. So yeah, I sort of hate when people call anything the playground of anything, but it was a great playground once I figured out what absolutely couldn't happen. And I'm a horrible sleep talker, so I think it mostly started there. And just to bring the conversation full circle, we were talking about like eidetic memory and images, and the first image that really occurred to me was just the two little boys talking in their sleep. I just loved it, and that there was someone there to listen. And then I think we can open it up
to questions.
The audience. Should any of you have questions?